welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be going through my entire past week. And by that, I mean I'm going to be recapping for you my mornings when I have been trying all of these Colourpop sponges. This is a $20 value, at least at the time that I purchased this, for all of these blending sponges. So I'm going to be letting you know my thoughts and personal first impressions of each and every one of these sponges, because I have spent the whole week trying them for you and telling you all about them. So let's jump in. But of course, before we jump into any of this, I know right now this is such a weird world we're living in, and I wanted to keep things going like usual because I know you guys are at home. Well, a lot of you are, and you're just kind of needing some entertainment and some positivity. So I'm gonna just do my best to do what I do best, which is come here and talk to you about fun makeup things so you could just kind of forget about your day, forget about what's going on in the world for even just a little bit of time, and talk about our favorite thing, makeup. Together, you and me, right now. It's girl time. So put away the rest of the world, grab a glass of wine or a tea or a snack, and let's just talk about beauty blenders. And is this inexpensive line of blenders worth the money, worth the time, worth the hype? Let's find out. And my chair is so squeaky. We've got to WD-40 this, Adam. My husband is the technical support behind the scenes here on this channel. Fun fact. Ooh, quarantine. How you doing with these white hairs? Am I gonna be able to see my hairstylist? Probably not soon. So, everybody get used to seeing some white up front. It's real pretty. It brings up my eyes, I'm sure of it. So 4 days, like I mentioned, I have been using all of these sponges. It's completely empty now because I have gone through them. But if you're unfamiliar with what sponges I'm even talking about, because I did just jump right into this, these are the Colourpop sponges that recently dropped. And I went ahead and purchased these. I let you guys know in a recent, like, will I buy it, purchase or pass video that I did purchase these and was waiting for these to show up at my door. Mostly because I was kind of disappointed that in my BoxyCharm I didn't end up getting the Luxie sponges, although a couple of you let me know you weren't in love with those of you that did get it from BoxyCharm, so thanks for letting me know. I was open to just trying any new sponges because I've only had one for a while from Illuminati from like last fall, and I was wanting to try some new sponges, so when these suckers came out and there was like a bundle steal, I was like, yeah, let's try it out. I can say, like, the packaging and the actual items themselves feel super springy. This has all of the rainbow of pastel, beautiful colors, and on the back of the packaging here is a description of what all of these do. We have a silicone, a complexion, an hourglass, a detail, and a velvet description, and they, of course, went inside each slot that, you know, was named to them. So this kind of gives me a little bit more in-depth info when I was using them, but really, I did what, you know, you do. You just get out the product and you stick it on your face and you try it. That's how most people are going to do this, so I didn't want to get too technical with it. I just wanted to put on my makeup and see how things went. The very first day I was on camera, I started with the Complexion Sponge. I feel like the reason I chose this sponge was because it was very similar in look to what I was used to the most, which is the Real Technique sponge. I saw that it was pretty much that teardrop shape with the flat edge, so you could use that for defining, concealer, whatever you want. First day, that was kind of where my mind was. I was like, what am I most familiar with? Let's start there. This definitely feels kind of like a marshmallow. I have a bunch of notes here that I was using throughout the week because, you know, you can't remember every little detail. And I did write here that this felt like a marshmallow before and after using it because it was so squishy. So that was kind of what I first noticed about the product. I also want to make mention that during this whole week when I was trying every single one of these babies, I used the exact same product. Same foundation, same concealer, same powder. Because I didn't want the product to be the reason something may have been different. Everything I tried was with the same products. When I got this baby wet, it definitely doubled in size. It did a great job of really kind of living up to that. But then I was like, wow, this is still really, really squishy. And I wasn't sure how it would work to apply my foundation and concealer. The spread for the foundation really took the kind of the usual amount of time, about 3-ish minutes. And then with the concealer, I did jump over here to the flat side. I wanted to use it as it was what seems to be intended. The flat side you could use for something specific. I did it for my under eye concealer. And I thought it applied beautifully. It kind of went up and spread, and it married with with my foundation really well. Applying powder with these was kind of okay, but I'm gonna get further into that when I get to the end of the week because I made some more revelations this morning. But I can tell you, I felt like something was maybe a little off with powder, but I had written down here that it was still really squishy when I was applying powder, but it was okay. It may have been a little bit more wet because of the squishiness than I liked. But overall, I thought when I was applying my makeup with this particular sponge, it did a great job. It didn't look like it was overly cakey. It seemed to blend well. Everything spread evenly and it didn't take forever in a day. I did notice a difference with the Illuminati sponge that I got about last fall from BoxyCharm. This one I had mentioned before is extremely dense, kind of like the opposite of these. These feel like marshmallows in a way. This was really dense and I feel like the product definitely stood on top of this Illuminati sponge, and it took a lot longer to apply the makeup, but I felt like I got a lot of product use from this. As far as this goes, or this Colourpop line goes, I have washed it since using it, but I definitely still saw product on the outside of it, which made me feel like it didn't totally absorb all of my foundation, which is a big deal. And since it is so soft, I wasn't sure how that was gonna go, but I ended up getting a lot of the actual product out too, pretty easily. The next day, I went into the Hourglass Sponge. Now this to me still feels very similar to the Complexion Sponge. They both have very similar like bounceability, marshmallow feels to them. Essentially, I think the big difference between these two items is the shape. This one is that hourglass shape that some people really love and prefer to use over this, and then there's people that prefer to use this shape over this. It's just all personal preference. So essentially, I can't really say too much is different from this one to this one other than the shape. I think that's really why they made these two kind of next to each other and very similar. They are just, you know, kind of personal preference. This applied my foundation super easily. This also spread my concealer really well. Powder I used the base for and it did fine. Again, these both, I mean, they feel identical. It's just shape. This next sponge though really surprised me. I was really under the impression these were all gonna be very similar after my first two experiences because, you know, they feel the exact same, just different shapes. But this one, the velvet one, this one shook my week up because I was like, whoa, I didn't think I was gonna like this. I didn't even know what to do with it. So the velvet one, I'm gonna actually read what the back of this one says, but based off first experiences, before I get into this, it feels like peach fuzz. It is like a regular blender, like the first one I was trying, the Complexion Sponge, but the texture is crazy different. You can definitely feel it. It's like, it feels like I'm petting my makeup applicator because I am essentially, and did that day. I could not believe how much it felt like a peach. It's so fuzzy, it's so soft. I didn't know how it was gonna apply my foundation, but this I felt like was the fastest application I had all week, and it was also crazy smooth. The end result was beautiful. I do feel like before it's wet, it is a bit denser. So not only did it feel like peach fuzz for the texture, but it also felt it had a little bit more structure internally to it, and that could be just because of the outside coating that is fuzzy, I'm not sure. But I do have my notes here that it felt more dense and less squishy with texture. It also felt like a faster application with this as well. The great final end result, my foundation and concealer spread beautifully with this. And the concealer, I noticed when I went to the flat edge side to use this for the concealer under my eyes, again, using the same products, it didn't seem to like sink in at all. It just kind of like went on my face, spread beautifully, and didn't really leave much residue at all on this sponge. I was like, that tells me then that it is keeping the makeup on my face, not absorbing it into the sponge. Now this one I can tell you, even after I've tried to wash it, it does still have a bit of staining to it. It could be from all of this fuzzy texture though. But I really like this. This one stood out to me for sure, and I remember thinking, whoa, I wonder if like this back half of the week is gonna be kind of crazy with foundation like applications, because this one, I really was impressed with it. So the back of this says, a reusable microfiber sponge with a unique flocked velvet texture that creates a flawless airbrushed look. Yes, airbrushed. That is the word I was looking for that I couldn't think of. This definitely gave me a very airbrushed feel by the end of it. I was really impressed with how my makeup looked after applying it. So I really am curious to try this particular sponge with like some heavier, thicker foundations, because I was using the same foundations all week, like I said, and it was my CoverGirl Olay Simply Ageless that is more of a medium coverage. It's not like a high coverage. So I'm curious how this will look with other foundations. This one was pretty great. Now I've only used all of these wet. I didn't use these dry, but I wonder what this would be like dry. I'm not really too sure, but I'm probably gonna do some more investigating behind the scenes. Stay tuned. Now today, this morning, I tried 2 sponges because I'm running out of days and I need to upload this. This morning, I used 2 sponges. This one over here being the silicone sponge that I used, and this one over here is the detail sponge. Now this one right here immediately threw me back to earlier in the week. The detail sponge very much has a very similar feeling to the Hourglass and Complexion sponges. These all I feel like are in the same family of marshmallow squishiness. At one point, I think it was the Hourglass one, I felt like I could just like put this down like a peep and eat it because it was just very much peep-like. And the colors are very, you know, peep-esque. I'm pretty sure I even said this morning I felt like I was doing my makeup with a marshmallow because it very much felt like I was doing my makeup with a large peep. This sponge is good for blending because it's so soft. It just felt like a marshmallow, like a huge marshmallow. It still does. Like even really wet, I feel like it's even more malleable. It's more bouncy, which is nice. It was a nice bounce to the face, but I am used to a little bit more structure. So this is actually also what I used today, and I felt like I liked this better. But let me tell you, this is absolutely the ColourPop dupe for the Real Technique sponge. I'm telling you now, that is what I was thinking the whole time I was using this sponge. And yes, I did try to wash it, but it is still holding on to a couple of spots of dirtiness. But you know, I used it this morning, is what it is. This is the silicone sponge that I started my face with this morning, and I really think it did a beautiful job. I even had the thought that like if I was blindfolded doing a makeup test, I would have thought if someone handed me this, they handed me a Real Technique sponge. Truly, I thought that's what this was. Now, I haven't had a fresh one in my beauty space in a few months, but that has been my die-hard sponge for years. Like I said, I do still use and like the Illuminati sponge. That's the latest and greatest that I have in my beauty space from BoxyCharm, but I've had it for a while. This one is super dense. It's like a finger workout trying to squish it in a way compared to these babies. So I haven't had a Real Technique sponge in a while. So I feel like this is the closest thing I have had as far as a applicator for my foundation goes in a minute that is like Real Techniques. This was probably the most dense before getting wet too. Maybe up there with the Velvet one. I'm not too positive. And this one is still damp, so I can't really do a squeezing comparison at the moment. But this definitely felt like it had a little bit more structure to it. It's a little less like a marshmallow. It still has some great bounce to it though. And then applying foundation and concealer was like I was using a Real Technique sponge. This is like definitely their version. And you see here this little like circular design here. I think that's supposed to be like indicating the silicone, I don't know. But this did a great job applying my concealer and doing powder today. I will say though, I learned with this sponge that again reminds me of the Complexion Sponge and the Hourglass Sponge. They feel like they're all family here in the Peep Marshmallow world. I did not like using this for powder today. I used this for powder with the base here all over my face, but because this is so soft, I feel like it held too much water in it, so when I was trying to get the powder out of the cap, ooh, it's even really wet still on the base here, it was not grabbing the powder in a way that I like, because then when it started transferring the powder on my face, it looked a little white cast when it normally wouldn't. And I think it just is too wet, too soft maybe for powder the way I personally like it for me and my skin. I did end up going back over it with my Real Techniques powder sponge that I do have here in my collection. I don't have a foundation one at the moment, but I do have a powder one. I ended up going back in with this to powder down the rest of my face because I did not like how this applied it. It felt like it was a little too well, wet, so the powder wasn't going on the way I like it to. And this was wrung out. This had, you know, I think the softness of this and possibly these as well may be a little bit of a deterrent for me personally as far as applying powders go. But I liked the powders with these two. This is the velvet one and this is the silicone one. These three were just like marshmallow fluffs, and I feel like didn't do as good of a job with powders. And that's me, my personal preference. Maybe you will have a different experience. Totally cool. Sometimes I'll do a powder foundation in the summer. Sometimes I will, especially in the summer, set down all of my makeup with a loose powder. And I like to do that after doing my foundation and concealer anyway, because I'm an oily skin girl. I'm trying to keep my makeup from breaking apart, so I did test that with all of these sponges. The Complexion Sponge, the Detail Sponge, and the Hourglass Sponge, I didn't really care for the powder too much because, again, I think it's the squishy factor and how much water these absorb and can hold in comparison to a little bit of the denser ones. This applied powder much more with a beautiful finish to it. It didn't feel like I was sopping my face wet with it, even though they had all been wrung out the same. These just didn't do as well for me as far as powders, but with foundation and concealer, great jobs, totally fine. And again, these are all my first impressions of all of these sponges because I've only gotten to use each one of them once, because I've only had this whole kit a matter of days. So stay tuned and be subscribed for an upcoming maybe faves and fails or something, where I get a little bit more time under my belt with each one of these to let you know more in depth how I've made things work or how I haven't made things work in the future. But as far as first impressions go, do I think this is worth the 20 bucks that I paid for it? I think normally it's another higher price. Let me look. They're $7 as individual prices, except for the Precision Blend, which is a different one. The Velvet one says they're going fast on their website for individuals, so if you're interested in this one is definitely selling more. Ooh, good to know. They're currently out of stock with this whole bundle at the moment, at least when I am filming this, which is a few days before it's going to be posted. So if you are interested in the whole set, stay tuned and kind of check out their website to see. But as of the moment, these are on their website individually for $7 each. The Velvet one says it is going fast though, which is fascinating because this one is so far kind of my favorite out of these new experiences to try. But yeah, did I think this whole bundle was worth it? Yeah, I really do. I spent probably a little over 20 bucks getting all of these in this little kit, and I think they're all really great. I will definitely use all of these. Even the squishier ones that I was like, it's kind of like a marshmallow peep. I don't know if I love it as much as some of these other ones. I still will use all of these. For a little over 20 bucks, this is so worth it for me personally, and I actually like them. But if I have to say, if you want to just get one, maybe two, because you are a babe on a budget and you only have room for one, or you only have a need for one, ooh, which one would I tell you? Uh-oh. I guess I would have to say either the silicone, because I really thought this applied really well with powder, concealer, and foundation, all three, or yeah, this Velvet one, and it says it's going fast on the website, so we are all apparently in agreement if we have tried these. This one is a really nice one, and it surprised me. With the texture, I wasn't sure how well it would apply or, you know, disperse the makeup all over my face, and I thought it did a beautiful finish. It does look airbrushed, it looks nice. And so did this. Like, this is today's look along with a little bit of the detailing one here. This was a kind of a combo look today that I'm still really, really pleased with how my makeup looks. But I would say probably out of them, because the other ones are a little too squishy and soft for me, and I like to apply powder with my damp beauty blenders or sponges. I shouldn't say beauty blender because it's kind of like saying the word Kleenex. Kleenex is a brand, beauty blender is a brand. But if I end up saying that a lot through this video, I apologize. That's why. It feels like it's just like the name of the item when it's not. If I had to tell you which ones I like the best at this moment after first impressions, it's these two, the silicone and the velvet. That's just where my heart personally lies at this moment for foundations, concealers, and powders. These both did them beautifully, and I really liked it. Guys, I hope this information was helpful for you. I hope that me trying these individually and giving you a little bit more in-depth per sponge, that helped you to decide. Maybe you don't want the whole kit and caboodle, but maybe you do want one or two. Or maybe you want to judge for yourself all 5 of these and you were curious, is it even worth the investment and time and money? I think so. I really like them. And I feel like I'm a little particular with how my finished makeup looks, because if I can't figure out why something isn't laying well, I would have said it here in this video and been like, something doesn't look right. But so far, my makeup has looked great every day, even with the softer little guys. And who knows, maybe you guys would like the softer, squishier, marshmallowy peep ones maybe you'd like that even better. Who knows? Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you happen to be new to my loud, weird, crazy, unique channel, hi new friends. I hope you take a quick moment to hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on the latest and greatest with these fun, loud, weird, unique videos I put out every single week. Bye friends.